Hey guys, it's me Avidavedi and you are listening on Extended Reality Developer Initiative, and we are doing this XR podcast. Like every other episode, we are bringing industry pioneers who bring up their views about certain perspectives and certain subjects. Today we are going to invite Mr. Ninad Chhaya, and he is going to present his perspectives about metaverses, his company which is GoPhygital. He has been there in the industry for quite a long time. So without any further delay, let me just invite him on the podcast. Hi Ninad, how are you?
Hey Avi, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, doing really well. And I'm really excited to host you because you've been there since 90s and been in the gaming industry in 90s. Even right now, when a student tries to get into the gaming industry, it is hard and the family pressure is there and everything is there. So let me first start with that. How did you get started in gaming industry, and when this certain thing strikes you that okay, gaming is something which you want to do?
So that's really an interesting question, Avi, and I don't think I can say that I got into it because I wanted to get into gaming. Because when I was kind of growing up, right in the 80s, gaming as an industry in India was pretty much non-existent. I grew up on a staple diet of comic books,
Mm-hmm.
sci-fi books, movies, and video games, which I could go into a video game arcade and play. Right back then, it was the Atari
Absolutely.
arcades which were there. But somewhere during those growing up years, I got interested in the process of how those games hooked onto me, right? The whole aspect of creative storytelling. And each of these mediums, be it a comic book, be it a movie, be it a TV show like Star Trek, which was very popular when I was growing up, or movies like Star Wars and all these movies, they told a story which hooked you on as a viewer. Gaming was the next stage, right? Gaming became much more interactive while growing up and while playing the game. And so while I was in school, while I was doing my college and graduation, it was always something that okay, I love playing games. It was never that oh, I want to do gaming per se in that sense. I think after I finished my graduation, which is I did my graduation with chemistry as my specialization, I was kind of more inclined towards getting into something creative, right? I mean, again, till that time, I was not sure what I wanted to do.
Yep.
And I went and looked up. Back then, there was no internet. The internet was just kind of starting to come into India. So I thought, okay, what are the people who are into advertising or filmmaking? Where do they go? And the whole storytelling aspect was appealing to me. So I thought, hey, let me apply to the Film Institute Pune. And kind of, so I went and looked at the courses there, and two courses really appealed to me, which was script writing and cinematography, because both these kind of you can actually blend
And which
together
year
to.
was this?
This was, I would say, 1995,
Wow.
when I just finished my graduation. So I got the form, I came home, and I showed it to my parents, and my dad said, hey, you know what? It's good that you want to get into the media profession. Here's what do you want to do? And I said, I want to do something creative. He said,
Mm-hmm.
like, काम करो, finish your education, do your post-graduation, and then during that time, let's kind of sit down and plan what do you want to do when you say something creative. I was like any college kid who was wanting to step out of the usual run-of-the-mill thing, right? And I come from a family where on my mom's side, most of the people are doctors. My dad side, almost everybody's an academics person. So for them to kind of see that, okay, this guy wants to do something creative was really out of the box, I would say. So I started doing my master's with organic chemistry as my specialization. And around that time, a friend of mine who's even now my co-founder at GoPhygital, Hitesh and I kind of grew up together. We have been kind of friends in school and did our college together. And he was doing his engineering. So I said, hey, Hitesh, I mean, let's kind of do something fun. And he comes from a very strong technology background. And we started building websites back in 1996, which started more as a side project because I was doing my MSc and he was kind of in an IT job. But we started a company called WITS where we started building websites and for companies like I Love Mumbai, for NGOs and for corporates. And this went on till I was kind of around 97, 98. I finished my post graduation. And around that time, I also met in one of the conferences Vishal Gondal, who would then eventually go on to become my co-founder at
Yeah.
Indiagames. And Vishal was also running his own multimedia software company. Hitesh and I were running our own multimedia software company. And Vishal and I started talking about games. And I said, hey, chalo, there's somebody out there who's also kind of as passionate about gaming. Because even back then, as with today, gaming was considered not a very serious aspect. It was considered as a leisurely or a frivolous activity. He, Parents would not want their children to spend more time on gaming back then as well. And तब तो उतने avenues भी नहीं थे, right?
नहीं थे.
And this is like 25 years ago. So Vishal and I got talking and we started brainstorming and we actually started pitching ideas of how gaming can be used for brands, AdWords gaming as it is known. And we did a few projects and then we said, hey, why not create a destination where Indians who are playing games can relate to it. Back then, the MSN games and Yahoo games was very popular. People would go to Yahoo to play chess or bridge, but there was not anybody making games for the Indian audience. And we said, okay, and that's how the name Indiagames was born, that games made for Indians by Indians. And we launched India's first gaming company, Indiagames. Dhruva was also there. Dhruva was more in the services space, and Vishal and I kind of set up a small team to build games primarily targeted at the Indian gaming audience. And these are online games at that point in time, using Shockwave, Macromedia, Director, Shockwave, and Flash. I think one thing led to another, and then we said, hey, this looks interesting. Some of the investors got interested, and we actually set up Indiagames as a full-fledged company than a side project. And yeah, that's the story. And it was very interesting that when I kind of went to my dad and said, hey, Dad, we have a couple of investors willing to fund us to make games. He was very surprised, saying, why would anybody want to pay you money to make games? And then he kind of understood the whole gaming concept of how the gaming industry is globally and how it works. But yeah, it was an interesting journey, and it's been 25 years now, and it still is fun making games. Obviously, a lot has changed, a lot has evolved. From online games, we made mobile games, and now at GoPhygital, we also do AR and VR solutions as well as games. So, but at the end of the day, that whole concept of doing something creative or trying to create something fun or trying to tell a story in a different way is what I am still after. And that's kind of been the whole journey till now.
That's amazing. That's really interesting. So, as Indiagames was the first Indian company to build games, and at that time we are talking about 1997. So at that time, what was the distribution channels, or what kind of clients you were approaching? So how you were being able to sell those games when there was no market almost?
So back then, and this was like 98, I think was the time we started, actually 97, 98 timeframe. We would go to brands, right? We would go to a company like, say, a Unilever or a P&G or Pepsi, and the games would be kind of put on a kiosk for them to, as like an AdWords game. So it would be a part of their marketing campaigns at any event they would be taking part in. Obviously, that was more the B2B model or the B2B2C model. And then when we launched Indiagames.com, the portal, we said that the internet was kind of just taking off in 99, 2000 time frame. And we launched Indiagames.com, which was like the one-stop destination, at least as what we thought of anybody wanting to play games, where it could be Rummy, it could be, and we would make theme-based games. So there would be a game on Navratri, there would be a game on Dashera, which people in India could relate to, right? So during Dashera, you had to go and shoot Ravan, knock off 10 heads of Ravan using bow and arrow. What actually triggered that was also very interesting, and this was during the Kargil War, where our neighboring country was attacking us, and Vishal got this idea of that, hey, why don't we create a game where Operation Vijay is what we called it. You are a soldier at the border, an e-soldier at the border, then you are shooting down the terrorists coming from across the border. Wow. And we were like 24, 25, didn't know whether it was politically correct or not to create such games. We just did it because we were really, there was a lot of angst that, hey, how can somebody attack us like this? And what can we do? And so Vishal was like the programmer, and I created the game design. We had a small team who did the art, and I think it was just a matter of a night or 2 nights, and we launched that game. And we just launched it not expecting anything in return. It was just kind of our way of expressing our feelings.
Passion oriented.
Passion, yeah. And passion or something to do that, okay, how do we support our country? How do we make it known that, hey, you can fight back in some form? And the game became a huge hit. I mean, we started getting calls from television channels, newspapers, and people wanted to know more about the game. And we said, hey, looks like it has struck a chord, and how can we kind of build upon this as a business? And then that's where the whole funding part came in, where we said, okay, if we want to scale this as a business and not just 2 or 4 guys wanting to create games just because they love playing games, we will need capital. And that's how we went about. So the distribution mechanism for online games was the internet. The B2B side business was still going on, so we would still build games for companies for their marketing activities or corporate training presentations, like game-based training modules, those kind of things. And then one thing led to another. Obviously, the early 2000s saw the Java phones taking off. So we then also switched focus to creating games for the J2ME devices back then. I remember Siemens SL45i was the first Java phone in the market, and we were working with a publisher in Europe to build games for them. So it was more of a work for hire model initially, and then Indiagames also got into publishing our own IP on mobile games. So yeah, I think this distribution followed. We also gave a shot at creating our own PC game. Again, this was something because both Vishal and I were huge fans of Hindi films. We grew up on Amitabh Bachchan films, and Sholay has been an integral part of our growing up years. So we said, okay, how do you kind of make a game which would have characters from Sholay? And back then, we had no idea about licensing or stuff like that. So we created a prototype of the game where you play Viru, right? And this is basically after Jay dies and Viru goes and takes revenge.
Yeah.
So Viru, so we created this prototype and we went and showed it to City Films, and we said, hey, you know what? We would love to kind of make this game, and we thought they would pay us to make the game. Turns out they said, you know what, guys, you cannot make this game because it's our IP. You cannot have kind of a game without paying us any royalty rights. And we said, okay, well, time to go back to the drawing board. So we then changed the storyline a bit. We still had a lot of filmy elements in it, but the whole idea was, so the game was called Yodha, the Warrior, which was India's first PC 3D game. And you played as an Indian soldier who has got into the camp of Gaddar Singh, who has his camp on the borders of India. And to be able to kind of recover the cost, we also tied up with Pepsi to come on board as a sponsor. And that was, I think, maybe in India, the first large-scale in-game advertising, where every time you collected a Pepsi logo, you got your health back. So instead of a Medikit, you had
health collectible logo. Is Pepsi coins.
Yes. And it played the Pepsi jingle, Ye Dil Mange More. So it was a boxed product which we launched. Thanks to Pepsi, we were also able to recover our cost. We even shot a music video back then to promote the game. Vedic Chant shot it, and we used a lot of our network to have people like Mr. Harish Bhivani give the voiceover for the game. Chintu Bhosle came on board for the soundtrack of the game. So it was a fun thing, but even till then, it was more of that, okay, let's do something different. And then, as they say, things got really serious when the VCs came on board and they said, look, you are sitting on something really interesting, something really fantastic. How can we scale this? And so that's where the online plus mobile game distribution channels came into play. And we started building our own games, launching them on telecom operators. This was the vast days when you had to submit a game to a telecom operator and they would put it up on their mobile deck, and you could go to Vodafone Live or Orange, as it was known back then, or BPL, and then download those games. So yeah, when I look back and see the journey, it was really interesting. There was hardly any distribution channel when we started off, but today the avenues are immense, thanks to, especially after what we saw was after the smartphones came in, after Android and iPhone got launched, the Android device, it democratized the entire gaming system. You did not have to go to a telco and ask them to put it on the top deck position to get maximum downloads. If your game was good, if you worked very closely with the app stores to promote it well, if you invested in user retention, your game can actually become a success. And
so
now
I have one question. So
Sure.
since these many years, how what is that one thing that you see that has changed drastically about gaming industry? So that one thing that used to be really hard, whether in terms of the development, creation, design, or whether in terms of the launch, or has become significantly really easy in this time of 2021.
I think the generation of today, and I say a generation because in 25 years, it is a new generation of game developers that has come in. They are, I think, a lot more aware and a lot more informed about what they want to do. I mean, like I said, when we started building games, it was more because we love playing games. So if I like it, if my programmer likes it, if my art director likes it, it's a good game.
It's a good game.
Whereas right, the user research was four of us in a room building a game and kind of playing it out. Today, people are a lot more savvy, and that's again thanks to the internet. It has created a lot more awareness about things like user acquisition, user retention, the core game meta loop, how things kind of need to be built, what genre you want to go with, why go with a particular genre. So even before a game is greenlit, a lot of effort and a lot of work goes into understanding why build that particular game, or what market are you targeting, or how is the game going to make money, or how are you going to make it increase the shelf life of that game, right? So it's no longer a standalone game which you launch once and forget. It's game as a service. It has a life of its own, and an audience of its own, and you need to keep constantly updating that game, constantly monitoring the data. I think data analytics plays a very big role. I can't stress enough on how game developers need to analyze each and every data. They need to look at the user funnels to see how people are reacting to their games, how people are consuming their games. And I think that is a lot what I see in today's game developers. That confidence is there.
So the biggest change is, previously it used to be more feel oriented and passion oriented. Now it's more data driven कि market में क्या चल रहा है.
I think it's a combination. I think at the end of the day, you still need to have that creative feel, that passion, because unless you are, it's a combination of creativity meets technology, right? And or data, as you said. So unless you yourself have that connect, that bond with that game, you will not be able to build it in a proper manner. And yes, then data obviously plays a key role once you're launched out there, or even if you do a soft launch, you really get to know well in advance in your development stage when you do an MVP that this makes more sense, or shall we just put this game on the side. So it's a combination of feel as well as data.
Of course. So there's one more thing. There are games, and then there are gamification. So gamification is when you sort of take a task and make it gamified, which means make it playable in such a way that people learn from that, playing that game, and they don't even realize that they are solving a real world problem, which gonna help in their work, which gonna help in their learnings and whatever. Right. So from games to gamification, which is like where all the industry and all the companies are most interested in, and the kind of solution we can pitch to their companies. So how this transaction came to you, and how at GoPhygital you are solving these problems, these kind of problems.
So, and that's a really interesting question, Avi, because gaming, like I mentioned early on as well, right? I mean, when you told clients that, hey, you're building games, it was only looked upon as a marketing activity of sorts.
Of course.
But when we went there and said, hey, you know what, using game-based mechanics, you can actually use that to train your employee staff, your employee engagement factor will go up if you use gaming as a platform or gamification as a platform as a part of your learning and development program. And initially it was kind of, you pitch it as a simple quiz game where you kind of have certain, the person has to go through modules. And we were already building computer-based training modules back in 2000. So it was more of kind of how do you kind of upskill that experience and make it a lot more immersive. So over the years, we have done a fair bit of gamification programs for corporates, helping them integrate it into various use cases, not just training, but even as a part of employee onboarding. If you have kind of gamification as an integral part of that, it really helps in getting people engaged right when they come on board. And then obviously you need to show them the growth path, and what better than games as a part of the training program to keep them motivated, keep them retained, build that whole engagement factor, as well as track their progress. The scoring part, the leaderboard part, not only motivates the participant, as a organization, it also helps you track how your team is performing. It helps build teamwork. It helps build camaraderie between individuals. So if it's a one-on-one game or a team game or a gamification program, it really helps in that. At GoPhygital, we started building, like I mentioned earlier, we built computer-based training modules, but in the past 5 years, we also saw that AR, VR was something which not everybody was kind of very aware of. And we started going out in the market and talking about how augmented reality and virtual reality are helping companies transform the entire engagement factor, right? And this was even before the term Metaverse was really popular. So we've been building solutions for the Metaverse before it was a really cool thing to do. And we would go to clients and say, you know, we could use augmented reality to help your people get into training, or you could use virtual reality to build an immersive training experience. It was tough initially, but then we got a few partners or client partners who put their faith in us, and we created a lot of interesting AR-based training programs or VR-based training programs for corporates, where they saw the actual impact of how AR and immersive technology like AR or VR and games or gamification can help build retention factor when you transfer knowledge. There was a very interesting safety training simulation in virtual reality that we built for the Mahindra Group a few years ago. This was for their tractor business. And they came to us with a very unique and interesting problem statement that, hey, we have a diverse workforce. We have people who are fresh inducted into the workforce, and we have people with 12, 15, 17 years of experience who have been there, done that, and are getting complacent over a period of time, because over a period of time you kind of become that, okay, actually, I'm doing the same thing again and again. The challenge was that if you were not experienced enough, or if you became complacent, any accident in the plant could lead not only to machinery getting damaged, but also loss of life, loss of limb. And they said our training programs are more inclined right now towards a PowerPoint-based training or towards a video-based training to an extent. How can you help us? And we said, well, we can use virtual reality to make sure that your people practice the entire process completely before even they step inside the factory floor. And you can actually make them do the same steps again and again till the muscle memory kicks in, so that when they go on the actual floor, they do it by practice. And this was actually launched in their safety conclave. So we created a simulation where we replicated, so they did not have any 3D models of their factory or anything. So we clicked a lot of pictures and we created the entire factory floor to scale from ground up. And we understood the whole process. And we said, okay, you can actually go and perform all these steps. And we showed the correct way of doing things. And then we also showed them the incorrect way, the wrong way of doing things. And that was where the clincher for us was, because they said, hey, we have not been able to explain to people that if you do things incorrectly, it could lead to an explosion. But in virtual reality, when they wore the helmet, you could actually feel that explosion on your face, what you see on the screen right now, right? And that was something which really helped us build that confidence level into the customer's aspect. And then obviously over a period of time, we work with companies across industries and across use cases. So in AR, we've done for medical, for healthcare. We also, recently we worked with Amazon Prime Video through their agency on a very interesting AR filter to launch their movie, The Tomorrow War. So it has a lot of applications, right? It could be for gaming. So for Procter & Gamble, we created a VR game to engage with the millennials on Head and Shoulders. So they wanted to promote Head and Shoulders, and they said that we just don't want to give out coupons, sachets, or free samples. How can we build a game? So we created a VR game where you shoot down dandruff flakes coming at you. So the idea is that, yes, gaming is there, but the gamification and gaming has an enhanced experience thanks to AR and VR. And that's what we have been kind of doing both in India and globally with quite a few of our client partners.
That's really amazing. You said it really correct that we can of course teach people about what are the good ways of doing this and what is the proper way of doing. But there are certain situations where you cannot teach what will happen when it goes wrong. But especially in healthcare, I have worked as a healthcare medical professional as well. So what happened there? You cannot teach them what can go wrong. There's no way. With virtual reality, we can sort of also simulate that what will happen if you do any mistake and how crucial it is to do the things right. So you said it really correct. And also would love to talk more about AR filters. So a lot of people use AR filters already, right? For entertainment purposes, for making reels, Instagram, Snapchat, but they don't even know they are playing with augmented reality, and it's a powerful technology. It could solve problems. It could also make money. It could promote things in a better way. It could reach to broader audience. So what is your perspectives about augmented reality use cases, and what do you think about especially the Instagram and Facebook filters?
So I think you made a very valid point, Avi, that augmented reality has a lot of use cases, especially with social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram and even Snapchat having a lot of AR filters. It has helped promote or create awareness about AR and its various applications to a larger base. Earlier, when we used to create AR experiences, it would be like a mobile app-based AR experience. But when we started working on Spark AR, which is the augmented reality platform for Facebook and Instagram, we saw that there is a lot of potential because the user base, the captive audience that is already there, almost Facebook and Instagram today, if you talk to any smartphone user, they would have at least one of the two apps, if not both, on their phones. How do you make them experience augmented reality? And in fact, the first project which we did last year, and this was in the first wave lockdown, when everything was shut, and we were talking to Pidilite Industries to create AR or VR experiences on launching a product. So they were coming out with a new product called the Fevicryl Acrylic Pouring Kit. And initially their plan was to look at how to use VR and AR to teach hobbyists on this new product that they're launching. And they're going to have workshops in their various retail outlets about this. But then the lockdown happened in March 2020, and everything came to a standstill. And Pidilite came to us and said, hey, I mean, what can we do where people are not stepping into the store? How can we get this product into their hands and teach them? And we said, well, what better than Spark AR or augmented reality? And Pidilite has a very strong fan following or followers on both Facebook and Instagram, especially Fevicryl, which is their consumer brand. And we said, well, we will look at launching this. So we created a connected packaging-based augmented reality filter where you scan the box and the AR filter comes to life to teach how to use the product. So it was like a DIY art hobby product. And we said, well, this is how you can create the art, and you can do various filters you can create various art styles using acrylic pouring kit. The advantage with Facebook and Instagram also was that you didn't have to download a separate app, or you didn't have to kind of make people understand how to use it. People already are familiar with Facebook and Instagram. The camera is kind of already there. So we leveraged that, and we worked very closely with the Facebook India team to launch this, because it was during the lockdown that the product was going live. So we work very closely even today with the now Meta India, not Facebook India, but with the Meta India team as one of their partners on Spark AR. So I think it is really interesting. A lot of companies are looking at this. We worked over the past year and a half, 2 years. We worked with agencies, we worked with brands to create Spark AR filters, which can be for something like a social cause. So through one of our agency partners, we created a filter for Infosys to create awareness about breast cancer. October was a breast cancer awareness month, and we said, okay, it was more for engaging with their female workforce. So it was both inclusivity as well as social awareness that we created that filter. We have also done an interesting AR app for Total Quads, which is an automotive oil company, which was for dealer engagement. So this was more of an app experience which we did. Interestingly, this was a multilingual app experience that we did in 4 Indian languages, Hindi, Kannada, Malayalam, Telugu. This was for the Pan-India dealer engagement program. So AR has different use cases. I mean, remote assistance is one use case. We are currently talking to a client to using how headsets can be used for remote assistance, something like a HoloLens for that matter. People can go on site at a remote location to fix something, and the supervisor or the expert can be at the HQ and can guide the technician. So not just marketing, not just advertising, but augmented reality has applications in education, in healthcare, like you said, in retail, on giving the user an experience of how the product will look. Virtual try-ons is a big use case when it comes to augmented reality. And all this can actually even be tied into e-commerce or AR commerce, right? So if I want to buy a chair, and IKEA kind of was one of the first movers to use augmented reality for you to look at how the sofa would look in your living room. And you could then go and make a purchase.
And so now Flipkart does it too.
Yeah, a lot of companies are now doing it. I mean, Flipkart is doing it, Amazon is doing it. In fact, the big 5, right? Meta, Amazon, Apple, Google, Microsoft, all these guys also have their own, they're investing heavily in AR, VR, right? I mean, Meta has Spark AR, Meta also owns Oculus. So they are in the AR, VR space. Microsoft is big time into enterprise AR through HoloLens 2. Apple, it is, I mean, obviously every iPhone out there today has augmented reality enabled in it through AR kit. And it is said that in 2022, Apple is going to launch its own headset. And that would be an interesting one to see. Google has AR Core. So I think if you look at the whole ecosystem, if the big guys are so bullish on this platform, on this technology, it's just a matter of time before it spikes exponentially and across use cases. Gaming obviously will be there to drive the engagement at a consumer level, but at the same time, even at a business level, at a B2B level, industries in manufacturing, automotive, retail, advertising, everybody will have to look at how AR, VR can help them. And that's what we at GoPhygital have been doing over the past 5.5 years. We have been helping businesses which had a physical presence transcend beyond the physical to go phygital.
That is fantastic. So since you have mentioned Meta a lot, so recently Facebook, one of the biggest companies in social media, social networking, changed its pivot towards virtual reality completely, converted their name to Meta. Now everybody is getting crazy over what is Metaverse and what is Metaverse. A lot of people are defining it really well. A lot of people are also deriving the definition into a lot of things like decentralized computing. So there is a lot of conflicts as well about the definition of what exactly metaverse is and how broad it could be, how less it could be. A lot of confusions are there. So what is your definition of metaverse, and are you building a metaverse?
So the metaverse is, I think eventually it will be like what the internet was or is today, right? It's going to be
Yes.
another avenue. It's not just one particular technology. It is not AR or VR. It is going to be a confluence, a combination of multiple technologies and multiple platforms to create a parallel experience. We already are in a very early primitive stage of a metaverse today when we have our phones and our laptops. I mean, we are interacting with people in a 2D environment, right? Today, when I talk to you, I'm talking on a rectangular screen. My phone is a rectangular screen. It's a 2D. What the metaverse will do is put us inside the environment. So you and I possibly, the next podcast, which we may do maybe after a couple of years, would be a hologram of you talking to a hologram of mine, or a virtual digital avatar of you talking to. And I think you already have done a podcast earlier.
A few.
Two avatars. Yes. So I think it is going to be a combination of AR, VR, 5G, blockchain, NFT, crypto. All of this will come together to form the metaverse. Today, if you ask somebody, everybody has their own interpretation. It's like when I was a small child, there was a story about how 5 blind men are trying to imagine the elephant. Some think it's a pillar, some think it's a snake, right? And only when the blindfold comes off, you kind of figure out what the metaverse or what the elephant is. So it is going to be, I would say, a combination and an extension of what you do in the physical world. So you will still need to have some elements of the physical world extending into the digital world to interact.
Sort of an immersive internet.
Yes, the immersive internet, exactly. And like you said, the ideal scenario is to keep it decentralized so that no one particular corporation owns it. Obviously, there will be key players having their own metaverses to look at and to experience. But in our case, in my opinion, the ideal metaverse is where you have a digital identity which can go from one metaverse to another seamlessly. The interoperability of across various players. So I could be in a gaming metaverse, and then I could just skip over to a film-based metaverse and watch a film with my friends in a simulated immersive environment. Or I could go and attend a work meeting to another one. So every company today is creating or working towards building their own version of metaverse. To answer your question, if we are building our own metaverse, well, we are not creating our own metaverse, but we are in the business of helping companies build their metaverses, right? So we are a technology company, and I was talking to a very close friend who's in the media and entertainment industry a few days ago, and we were exchanging ideas on what could be the key drivers. So I think gaming will kind of see a lot more activity in the metaverse space. Already Epic has their own metaverse. Right? Fortnite today is not just a game anymore. Fortnite organizes music concerts. Travis Scott has had his music concert in Fortnite. So it is going to be a destination where whatever you are going to do in real life, you will also be able to do in the virtual world, be it AR, VR, be it MR, be it simulated reality. Multiple terms are floating around, but it is going to come. I would say it's still a couple of years away, at least for it to start gaining traction. But there are already a lot of efforts being put in by companies across the globe, both from a hardware perspective, from a platform perspective, from a content perspective, to create these experiences for consumers.
Amazing. So are you guys working on some kind of product as well? I know you guys are working with these Fortune 500 companies, building their products and building their sort of simulations. Are you guys working on some of your products as well?
So we have a few ideas. We are kind of toying around with a few ideas. Too early to state on the product side of things, but Also, are we building a product is a very intensive and long drawn process, which not only needs like a good solid team, which we are fortunate to have, but also requires a lot of funds. And we are a
Yes.
bootstrapped startup as of now. So if there are any investors out there who are listening to our podcast, we are looking to raise money to help build metaverses, not only for partners of ours, but also have some interesting ideas on what niche metaverse can we help build as our own IP.
That is fantastic. Thanks, you talked about the investors, because I'm building a platform where I am bringing not just the people who want to seek how the path to get into XR industry, but also the people who are already the pioneer of XR industry and running it. So I'm building the platform for, I have recently released a job portal, which helps the people the career seekers to connect to the industries, and also gonna help industries to get a better networking system. So I'm also gonna invite a lot of investors to come on the platform and help advise us, be our advisors, be our mentors, and be our investors. So that is what we are trying at XRDI. The job portal is available in upcoming month. There are 6 kind of workshops gonna come up. Not workshops, these are complete training programs. So 6 training programs gonna come up. So we are heavily investing and heavily working towards this direction only to get better fundings, to make the XR engine going off India.
And that's a fantastic initiative, Avi. I think we need flag bearers like you to help us spread the word and then kind of build the ecosystem. I think what you're doing, both from a talent sourcing perspective as well as getting all the stakeholders onto one platform, that's what the industry today needs to take it to the next level. I think we have a lot of potential to build out, and we are almost at the same stage. I would say almost, because we are still a bit behind when it comes to global companies, but it's not that far a gap. And given the right kind of ecosystem, given the right kind of backing, we can be at par, like we are now already doing in gaming. A lot of gaming studios from India are competing with international gaming studios,
Of
building
course.
games which are very popular, have lots of downloads, and making lots of money. And likewise, even with the immersive tech companies building for the metaverse, we will be able to get there with the right kind of ecosystem in place. So, I mean, more power to you, my friend.
Thank you, sir. I've been pretty fortunate to host some of the great people from the industry, from the founder of Raji, from the founder of Mumbai Gullies, all the people who are coming and sharing their knowledge. It's making this platform more and more valuable for people. So I'm going to come up on this point that a lot of people has a lot of hesitation about metaverses and getting involved with this, and the reason is, of course, you will be able to better connect with friends and family and the people you know, but the people who sort of bully, the people who sort of harass, the people who sort of scam, also gonna get more connect with you, also gonna get more personalized way, and being able to touch you, being able to be in front of you and scam you in a better way. So what could be the what are the safety perspectives they should care about?
So that's a really valid point that you made, Avi, that safety is a concern, especially when people are stepping into metaverse. And there have been stories and incidents of people getting harassed and bullied. And it's a lot more uh, personal or a lot more impactful because you are totally immersed in that environment, right? So it is going to be the regulators will or the platform owners will need to make sure that they have strict guidelines, like a zero tolerance policy that people need to follow when they are in their metaverse. Whoever is the owner of that metaverse will need to ensure of that. There will need to be moderations to be done. Having said that, I don't think there can be like a completely safe environment, or bullying will not happen. But learning from the past, right? Even on the internet today, the internet as we are using it, there are challenges. People are getting cyberbullied in online games. People are getting, their accounts are getting hacked. Their identities are getting stolen. I think it will persist till we have the checks in place, or the security systems in place across the board, and which is where I think even the whole blockchain part would help in ensuring that there are aspects to put security measures in place from that perspective. Information security will play a key role. It is also up to the person to make sure that yes, you kind of take care of at your end also. I mean, like we put an antivirus on our PC, there will be certain softwares available even in the metaverse to help you navigate the metaverse in a safe way. So concerns are there, very valid concerns, very valid points that you raise, and as a collective team, all the stakeholders need to work towards making it a safer environment. Because, like I mentioned, it's going to be a digital identity. It could just be that somebody even steals your identity and misuses it. Pretty much like how credit cards are getting cloned. Your identity could get cloned.
Yeah, imagine if you are the CEO of your company. A lot of these scams are happening where people are sort of creating the phone number or WhatsApp number with the same name and then scamming the employees that I'm in certain need and I need. When it's gonna happen in virtual reality, when it's gonna happen in metaverse, people gonna just replicate the same avatar and then they're gonna talk like you. To be able to scam people.
Yeah, or hijack your avatar and say,
hijack your avatar,
give me so much crypto and I'll release it. In fact, there's this really interesting book, and then the movie was also made, Ready Player One. Right, and then that talks about the same thing, that how people are kind of using the metaverse, and then the good side and the bad side of the metaverse is what it spoke about. The OSS was like this virtual environment where people would play games, people would earn currency, but at the same time, there was a corporation which wanted to control everything. So I think those challenges will exist, like in the real world society of today, even over here, in our physical world where crime still exists, but we are putting law and order policies in place. Same way, the metaverse will happen. And I think the Minority Report was a brilliant example of how AI can be used to pre-recognize that, okay, maybe a crime is going to happen, preempt the crime and then stop it. So maybe AI ML will play a key role in making the metaverse a safe place.
Yeah, thanks. You mentioned Minority Report. A lot of screen gestures we use in our phones right now are inspired from Minority Report, and even in the UX of VR right now, which we are doing, there is some sort of inspiration from there. So a lot of things are pretty amazing. A lot of things. So there has always been some sort of resistance whenever a new technology has been come, right? People were not trusting whenever the motor cars were come. The horse cart were replaced by the motor cars. They were not trusting the machine. They were telling their generations that you are investing too much time with the magazines when magazines and newspaper became popular. So there always been this kind of resistance from the communities. Let's see, but progress cannot be stopped, and we absolutely have to go on the next level. So thanks for sharing this amazing time with us. Because of your contribution, because of your time, we make this platform so amazing for people who listen to us. This has really been an honor to host you on the platform. You have been an industry pioneer. You shared so much details about the industry that we never even imagined, because we have not seen that era of 1990s.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me over. I've been following your podcast for a while, and when you reached out to me and said, hey, can you be a part of it? I was like, sure. I mean, you don't need to ask. I mean, I'd love to be a part of your initiatives and see how we can collectively spread the word about gaming, about metaverse, about AR, VR, and grow together as an ecosystem. So thank you for having me on your podcast. It has been a genuine pleasure.
Really, thanks to you and GoPhygital team. Wish you very luck in this upcoming year and have a great time.
Thank you. You too. Wish you a very happy new year.
Happy New Year, everyone.